Welcome into Boxing Scene Today. Well, right now, it's the jewel of boxing divisions, 154 pounds. A lot of activity right now. Jaron Boots Ennis, of course, knocking his debut at 154 absolutely out of the park. But he was a big favorite. Didn't he do what he was supposed to do? Of course, Vergil Ortiz fighting Erickson Lubin later on in the year. We'll hear from him in a moment. But right now, Jimmy Smith in studio, the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi joining us via Zoom. Let's talk about right now the weekend itself. Before we get into the future at 154, Chris, Boots Ennis taking out Ismail Lima in a minute and 58 seconds. Yeah, it's what he was supposed to do. He was a heavy favorite, but doing it that quickly, that easily, did it kind of make you want something more than what we saw, or was it the right tune-up to start at 154? What's your thought on it, Chris?
Well, listen, as soon as this fight was announced, I felt like I wanted more. The matchup wasn't intriguing at all, and there was a lot of criticism for or against Team Boots because of the choice of fighting Lima, who's a literal unknown from Portugal. Yes, he's had a good run recently beating undefeated fighters, but beating undefeated fighters that nobody's heard of. So this was the only option for Boots to come out of this fight on top. There was a lot to lose here. It was a very little risk, a very little reward, and apparently there was very, very little risk as well because Lima just was not up to the task. But listen, Boots did exactly what you're supposed to do with that type of guy. When you have a guy in front of you who doesn't belong on the level, we don't get paid for overtime. Get him out of there fast so people can't realize that he doesn't belong there. And then you get everyone all hyped up, like which everyone is right now about Boots. He looked spectacular. He blasted the guy out. Does it really matter who he is at this point? As long as he got him out of there in an explosive fashion the way he did, all is good. The train moves on. Yeah, but Paulie, we talked to Coach Garcia about this, and he said, look, if Boots looks spectacular, he's supposed to look spectacular. Even if he looks bad, we'll just go, okay, he didn't take the guy seriously. In a sense, Boots was in, as Chris says, I guess a low reward situation with not a lot of risk. Paulie, what's your thought about the fight last Saturday?
My thought is this, especially the way we're framing it here, Jimmy. I'm going to push back a little bit.
Please.
We're framing it like poor Boots. He was just never going to get the credit he deserved, or he was only going to get criticized. Get the F out of here, man. Enough with these opponents already. I'm done with it. I'm tired of it.
Right.
That's it. You made this opponent choice. It is what it is. They got the job done. Love the fact that he did the job the way he was supposed to. But I'm really done with these kind of opponents now. Boots Ennis is a phenomenal fighter. He should be fighting phenomenal opponents. And he's in a weight class where it's kind of hard to avoid phenomenal opponents unless you're purposely avoiding a phenomenal opponents, So, I don't want him to become sort of like that Gervonta Davis effect where he was also in a weight class full of phenomenal opponents and he found a way to avoid them all. Boots is a stud. I want to watch him against other studs. This is what sports is. I don't want to watch the Lakers against a college team or whatever the best NBA team is when they're riding high. I want to watch them against the next best NBA team. I want to watch the same thing in my boxing. I want to watch the best fighters fight the best fighters. So hopefully Boots can get a big fight soon.
Well, when you talk about the best fighters at 154 pounds, you have to include Vergil Ortiz, of course, taking on Erickson Lubin in November. Got an exclusive boxing scene interview with him, Lance Pugmire. This is what Vergil Ortiz had to say about his upcoming future.
All right, Vergil, we watched you work out today. Looked very strong. How are you feeling in the gym here with Robert Garcia?
I feel great. We have a pretty good camp going on over here, good sparring. Coaches are telling me what to do, following instructions, and we're hoping for a good November 8th.
Your last couple fights against Bohacek and Madrimov, you went the distance, after a slew of knockouts. Are you now training like, all fights are going to be going the distance, or are you still primed and looking for that knockout?
We train, honestly, nothing has really changed. Even for those fights, we trained the same as we did the other fights. We go in expecting the toughest fight of my career. Basically, even from the first fight, that's just, you just got to be prepared. It's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. I know you've spoken about the respect you have for Erickson Lubin. You could easily make the case he's probably better than some of the champions at 154 pounds right now. What has you most concerned about him as you go into the fight, and what do you feel best about your skill set versus his in the fight?
I wouldn't say I'm concerned about anything, but I think what we have to look out for is that I feel like he's at a turning point in his career. He's had 2 losses. he can't really lose anymore. You know, he wants to get a world title fight. He wants my belt. He wants his rematch with Fundora. His time's ticking for him. You know,
Yeah.
he's about to turn 30 if he's not 30 already, and we need to watch out for a live dog that's on his last, that's backed into a corner. You know what I mean? So we just got to be careful about that. So I mean, that being said, we just got to be on our toes. We got to be worried about everything and just be careful.
Seems like you're very locked in on the task at hand of Lubin, but obviously for you, I know you want to stand as a world champion, and almost to a man, when you look at the champions that are out there, they want no part of you. Is that frustrating to you? How do you set that aside as you're going about your business?
I think I dealt with the frustration at 140, 147, so it kind of got old at this point. Right now it's in the back of my mind. I think a lot of people understand what's going on. I'm just not getting my shots, or they just don't want to fight, or whatever the reason may be. They know that I want to take on the toughest fights possible, and I'm optimistic that these fights are going to happen. You just got to force it one way or another.
Yeah, one of the great fights that's out there, and I was talking to your father about this, the calendars really line up well with Boots Ennis going pretty soon, and then you'll be following. Do you think that maybe with the involvement of Turki Al-Sheikh that could be a fight that we would see next in your career?
Absolutely.
If you get victory?
That's a great fight that could happen, and I mean, I want it to happen. That's a fight that I think that needs an answer, because everyone's been. I mean, even I've been, wondering. Oh, let's see what happens in that fight. 147, now 147, 154, and I'm excited to be a part of big fights like that everyone wants to watch. So it's a yes for me.
Yeah. That's an interesting admission. So I mean, like, kind of going into the fight, do you go into it saying, I know I can defeat this guy, or I'm maybe even uncertain about the outcome and I want to see the way it plays out?
I'm always confident in my abilities, in my IQ, and in my toughness. I don't go in. I'm gonna be honest. I don't go into any fight thinking I'm gonna win.
Okay.
And not in a bad way. If I know I'm gonna win, then I think I got this. You can't go into a fight thinking like that. You know what I mean? Now you can't be scared. Being scared is different. Or uncertain. I'm not even uncertain. I'm in between uncertain and I know I'm gonna win. I'm just like I can win. I just got to do everything right. I got to be on point. So that's kind of like where I am in my headspace.
Yeah.
On any fight, doesn't matter who it is.
Is Boots the guy, even though he's not a champion, is he the guy you want the most at 154 pounds?
I wouldn't say I want anyone the most. I
Okay.
just want to fight the best. Period.
Yeah.
My goal is just to fight everybody. Because I want to be remembered like Oscar. He fought everyone. I mean, Fernando Vargas fought everyone.
Yeah.
Just those guys. I want to be respected when I'm retired.
And, it may not be a champion at 154 pounds. So do you think that you could get a fight with Fundora? I mean, if the WBC stepped in and said, like, hey, this is the interim champion, he needs to fight Fundora if he wins the fight in October.
I think so. I mean,
You think it's possible?
I think it's possible. I mean, I don't know what exactly he has lined up, but I for sure want to make it happen. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then the one other thing I wanted to ask you about, what about the possibility of going up to 160?
Next, I mean, it's gonna happen. It's inevitable, but I don't know about next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it could happen down the road, though.
I think it's inevitable. It's gonna happen. We just don't know when. I only have 2 fights at 154 under my belt. I mean, technically 4, but yeah. I mean, it's gonna happen one day. We just gotta see where the road takes us.
I'd like to see Crawford come down, win a belt at 160, and then fight Vergil Ortiz.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I've thought about the other roads. Like, what if I had went up to 160, got a belt, entices him to come down to make that fight happen. I think it's an intriguing road to think about. We'll just have to see.
What's your thoughts? I mean, you interact a lot with fans on social media, so you know what they're saying about you and to you and all that stuff. Do you think that they respect you equally, even among the champions, even though you may not have a belt? Do you think that you have that kind of credibility based on what you've done already with your career?
I think I have a lot of sports fans that think so. I mean, some don't, and to each their own. Everyone's free to think what they want to think. But I think it's evenly balanced, and not 50-50, evenly balanced. Like, I think that I have enough support where I think people know what's going on.
Yeah. And November 8th on the Zone versus Erickson Lubin in front of your hometown crowd,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a great opportunity for you. What are you most excited about that evening?
I mean, the atmosphere, man. It's electric when you go in there in Texas. I haven't fought there since 2022 against McKinson in the same arena, and I mean, it was crazy. Everyone was wearing my shirts, and it's just crazy to see that, just to see where I came from, and now where we're at, So it's cool. It's
Exactly.
a cool feeling.
Thank you so much, Vergil. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, Vergil Ortiz, of course, looking dialed in, getting ready for Erickson Lubin. But you look at the names at 154. Of course, there's Ortiz. Of course, there's Sebastian Fundora taking on Keith Thurman. That got delayed a little bit because of an injury. You also have Murtaza Aliyev at 154. It's an absolutely stacked division. But, gentlemen, when you look at it, Ortiz and Boots Ennis, as Lance Pugmire said, might be the two most talented guys. Neither one of those guys is world champion. This idea that we might see this super fight without a belt on the line, what's your thought on that, Chris, and then possibly coming together later this year or early next year?
Well, I think Lance Pugmire, squared that up perfectly when he asked Ortiz, "How do you feel about that? The fans, how they look at you?" He's never been a world champion. Wasn't a world champion at 47. Is not a world champion at 154. But a lot of people look at him as the best fighter at 154, which is the most stacked division in the sport today. So that holds a lot of weight. And you got Boots Ennis, who's been a two-belt holder at 147, just got into 54 on Saturday night, so he hasn't had a chance to vie for a title there at 54 either. But at least he's been a world champion already. So yeah, the potential one and number two in the division, and I say potential because this weight class is that good. Because you got Murtaza Aliyev, who is the dark horse, who it seems like everyone's afraid of. He's the boogeyman of the division. You've got Fundora, who is supremely popular and always exciting, but seems like he can be knocked off. Xander Zayas is a new champion who's undefeated. We've got a lot of guys at the top of this division who are undefeated. But I think a lot of people might look at this weight division and look and go, well, I got in either order Ortiz and Ennis as one and number two. It could be Ennis Ortiz, Ortiz Ennis, however you want to look at it. But I think a lot of people might look at it that way. And the idea that this fight could be happening soon, it seems like both guys want it. Ennis came out immediately after his victory the other night with Lima and said that he wanted Ortiz. I think he even said he wanted next. Lance just asked Ortiz about fighting him. Could that potentially be next? Obviously, they want it. Victor Ortiz is the kind of guy that talks like you want your champions to talk. He wants all the smoke. He wants to fight the best fighters in the world. He even said it himself. I want to be one of those guys who you look back and fought everybody and has respect when I retire. I love that. I love that response. But in terms of this happening next, I just think there's way too many roadblocks. And it'd be really difficult to make this fight next. I feel like promoters would like to kind of push this along, kick it down the road so it can build a little bigger, which I don't necessarily agree with. I like when champions fight or championship level guys fight in their primes when they have that youthful exuberance and that hunger. But in terms of this being the next one, I don't necessarily see that happening.
Paulie, when you look at it, as Chris said, where, who's your easy out on the way there? You see Xander Zayas, you see Murtaza Aliyev, you see Fundora, you see Barao, another champ, WBA at 154 pounds.
Barao's tough.
Barao's tough. There is no easy out, Paulie. It's like, all right, I want a title, but I don't want the toughest guy. Hey, you show me an easy name on that list, Paulie.
Yeah, the only thing is, if you keep fighting the Limas of the world, you're taking the easy outs regardless, dude.
Yeah.
So I mean, we gotta see. Regardless that Boots has been a champion at 147, it was a weekend 147, and I know Vergil has not been a champion yet. Quick question: who was Vergil's first fight at 154 pounds?
His first one at 54. What is it?
Sorry, Bochuk.
I think it was Bochuk. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm looking it up right now. Yep.
What was Ennis' first fight at 154?
Lima. Yeah. Yeah.
My point stands.
Yeah.
All right. And one guy was a champ, and yet Boots was the champion at 147. That we're talking about, like he was a champion or Vergil was not the champion. This is why Vergil has a higher standing here.
Yeah.
And this is why this fight, I don't mind it waiting for these guys to get a title. I would prefer this to be a championship fight between these two guys, but somebody's got to step up and go grab a title. Vergil, I think, is being avoided a little bit.
Paulie, I'm pushing back.
Yeah.
His first fight at 54 was Frederick Lawson, who was a blown-up welterweight. His next
Lawson,
fight
yep.
at 54 was Thomas Delorme, who's a blown-up 140-pounder. So
All right.
he didn't jump right into deep waters either.
All right. Point made. Then point corrected made. But I'd like the fight to build, and I'd like for them to get a belt first. I understand that it would be phenomenal for them two to fight, but they're both American stars. I think this fight could really become something if they build up a little bit. But build it up. By build up, I don't mean fighting the Lawsons and the Limas of the world. That's not building anything, dude. That's just you're taking roadkill and just smashing it again and reversing back over it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need that. I'd like for the fight to build where there's, some good fighters knocked off by these guys. Vergil has already done that, knocking off Madrimov and Boachuk. I thought Lance was a bit tough on the question about Vergil not getting knockouts. I mean, you're fighting Boachuk and Madrimov. What do you want? You want the guy to keep rolling, steamrolling those guys too. It's not easy. But I'd like for Vergil maybe to get that kind of opponent level as well. Maybe get a win under his win as a feather in his hat of that level at 154 pounds. I think he's capable of doing that. But 154 gives you no gimmies here. So let's see which way it goes. But I don't think that somebody like Xander is going to be given to these guys that easily. Xander's a WBO champion. He's young, and though you're a champion at a top weight class, and it shouldn't matter once you're champion, I don't see the top ranked people moving Xander into too many tough defenses right away. I think he may sort of float around for a little bit, but the other fights, maybe they're possible. Murtazaev is a guy nobody wants to see. Then I love how then the Russian guys get criticized for not fighting anybody when everybody avoids them all like the plague, and then they get criticized as if they have the option to put a gun to somebody's head and make people fight them. But Murtazaev is there. I don't see anybody chomping at the bit to fight him. What do you say? Borrell is a 150 is WBA guy.
Yep. How about Sporeo?
Yes.
Yep.
Then Fundora might be the most fun of them all, because Fundora is a shootout kind of guy who you can get, or he might get you. Shame that Fundora and Thurman kind of fell out now, right? Until later, but I think Fundora is a beatable guy, but at the same time he can beat you. But he's always in a very fun fighter, and he seems to be improving as well. So I don't know the direction to go. I guess I'm just nitpicking and saying, hey man, I'd like to see this fight happen, but I'd like to see this fight happen under the right circumstances. I don't mind seeing it kicked down. It can't keep being kicked down the road a little bit. I just don't want to see it kicked down to the next town or the next city, the next state. I don't want to see it kicked that far down. I want them to fight in their prime when it's important for a championship belt, and while they're still massively hungry. I don't want these Pacquiao Mayweathers in every generation, which now became corporate Canelo. Which, okay, great show, but I want to see guys fight when they're at their savage best, and by their savage best, it's got to be in their 20s, dude.
Two veteran names that I want to leave with, Chris. I got to ask you about it. Erickson Lubin and Keith Thurman, two of the guys who are in spoiler positions against champions, or not champions, but elite at 154. Who do you think can make the most noise, especially with the win?
Well, I think in terms of the Fundora Keith Thurman fight, that was really shaping up to be a really intriguing matchup. And we saw with Fundora, he has these defensive lapses. We saw it in the Zoo fight where he threw these big bombs and they were landing clean. Zoo just didn't have the firepower to finish Fundora the way that Brian Mendoza did. Guess who might? Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman is a very, very smart, athletic boxer who can be very explosive, especially early on. Yes, he hasn't been a knockout puncher in quite a long time, but he's still smart enough to put those punches in the right places. And you got a guy like Fundora who sometimes runs headlong into shots. We could have a big upset there, and that would be a massive a win and shakeup in the division. So that fight was really intriguing to me. I'm really upset that it fell out. And in terms of Erickson Lubin and Ortiz, I was actually going to bring that up because Lance was saying, he's like, oh, it seems like a timeline-wise, you guys are kind of on the same track. Well, not really. Because Boots fought Lima, who couldn't stand for 90 seconds. And Lubin is not a Lima. The guy can punch. The guy has a lot of experience. The guy is still in his physical prime. And Ortiz is sometimes there to be hit as well. He likes to be exciting as well. And you got a guy who can punch like Lubin, who's also a southpaw. it's a dangerous fight. You know, it might not be an easy fight either. You know, I don't know if Ortiz is going to be able to walk through Lubin the way that Ennis was able to walk through Lima, in which case, that fight would be kicked down the road anyway, like we said, champ. But yeah, it's intriguing that these it's funny, the veteran names, one of them's 36, Lubin's only 29, 30. So he's not an old guy, he's a veteran, he's a young veteran because he's been to the big show before. But two guys that are still intriguing, dangerous, and have names in the division. I just wish that Thurman and Fundora fight was actually happening, because I don't think Thurman has as good as a chance with the other champions as he does against Fundora because of the factors I said before.
I also want to say too, we talk about old school boxing and our fondness for old school boxing, and Shay made a good point about them not being on the same timeline, because even though the schedule wise they're on the same timeline, the Lubin fight is expected to be a tougher fight on Ortiz than was the Lima fight on Ennis. So Ennis, while Lubin may be in a tough fight, okay, you expect him to win it, and he comes back next year. In the old school fashion, if we were, and I'm not talking about old school like the 50s, I'm talking about old school even as recently as 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, this win by Ennis, he would be back in the ring before the end of the year. He would have a fight before the end of the year, because this win is it was like a dust off.
He could be back in by the end of the month.
He could, yeah.
His sparring was harder.
But then we're going to the 50s. Then we would be going to the 50s and 40s. But if we're gonna go like the 90s, early 2000s, he could still be back by the end of the year. Remember Mike Tyson knocked out Bruce Seldon in September, and then he fought Evander Holyfield in November.
Yeah.
He lost, but he fought Evander Holyfield in November. That was 30 years ago. I guess that's a long time for some people. I guess I'm old and it's not that long ago to me anymore. But it's not the 50s either. In the old school fashion, Ennis could be back in the ring before the end of the year, and that would keep him hot and keep people really curious. This is how you do it. You don't do it by, okay, he's great. Great, you got a knockout. Now let's see him in 11 months. No, dude, you got to keep people in front of people's TV screens constantly, especially if they're performing like this. Why are wrestlers so famous, even though all their stuff is scripted? Because they're fighting every week.
They wrestle every week. Yeah,
you get into the storylines. Trust me, that's what they rely on.
Yeah, so it's on your TV screen constantly. You start to follow it. If Ennis can be constantly on our TV screen, he's that kind of guy that people would start to gravitate to him. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, I'm not saying he has to be on the TV screen every second, because some fights are going to be tougher than others. But you just blew this guy out in 90 seconds. I'd love to see Ennis back in the ring in December, honestly, personally.
We would, and 154 is just going to get hotter and hotter. Hopefully, we get some clarity about who's really the man early next year. But for your boxing news, stay right here at Boxing Scene Today. It's a source for all of your boxing knowledge. Join us, find out why millions are watching.